Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I am going to be reviewing all the Cle De Peau foundations. So I actually have tried all of Cle De Peau's foundations, and I thought I would do sort of, not necessarily a ranking video because I love all these foundations, but I just feel like you would use them for different purposes, or they're going to be more meant for specific people depending on your skin type or what type of coverage you like. So I wanted to do a roundup on all the Cle De Peau foundations and which Cle De Peau foundation is the best. Obviously, I have my favorite and which one I think is the best. It might be different for you. Foundations isn't a one-size-fits-all product. Everyone has different needs. They have different preferences. They have different requirements and different skin types. So I just thought it would be helpful to do this sort of video to talk about in depth about these foundations and which foundation would work best for you and which one is my favorite. I love Cle De Peau, and I think they do complexion products really well because they really focus on enhancing your natural beauty and just making you look more beautiful, making your skin look more pretty versus it being like this makeup-y look where it's heavy makeup, where it's lots of pigment and lots of shimmer. They just really do that refined, beautiful, natural, sort of soft glam look, and I love that. But if you want to see which Cle De Peau foundation is best, just keep watching. So Cle De Peau doesn't have a ton of foundations, but what Cle De Peau does is they're very specific when they release products, and they do each product launch extremely well. They put a lot of thought into their products. You can tell by how quality their releases are and just how beautiful they are. So I'm going to start out with the lightest coverage and move on from there. So the first foundation we have is the Cle De Peau The Foundation. This has an SPF 22. In the States, it claims it does. This is an ultra-luxurious, weightless foundation infused with skincare ingredients to blur imperfections and reduce the look of fine lines and wrinkles for a radiant finish. It instantly blurs and camouflages for an even-toned, radiant finish that lasts up to 24 hours. The luxuriously rich yet lightweight cream melts on contact with skin to moisturize, plump, and protect, while reducing the appearance of lines and wrinkles and promoting firmness. The finish is sheer, buildable, and exquisitely radiant. SPF 22 protects against harmful UV rays. So this is one of my favorite Cle De Peau foundations. It is the most, like it says, the most luxurious foundation that I have ever experienced. It is called The Foundation for a reason. They don't even need to come up with like a creative name. It's just The Foundation because it's so special. It is so beautiful on the skin. If I want my skin to look its absolute best, this is the product I reach for because this consistency is very interesting, and it almost is like a tinted cream. I don't even want to swatch this because I don't want to waste product, but it is so smoothing on the skin. The formula feels extremely silky. It almost feels like you're applying a tinted cream to the skin, but it's not as, if you've tried the previous version, they recently reformulated this, it's not as hydrating as that formulation was. I feel like this one would be more suitable for normal combo skins. If you're extremely oily, I don't know how well this one would work out for you because it is that skincare makeup hybrid, so it could potentially be a little bit too glowy unless you use like a mattifying primer and set it down with some powders. I think it could work, but honestly, this does. Even when you apply it to the back of your hand, the way it smooths over the texture and just blurs everything. Everything looks so smooth and blurred and filtered. It looks like you've put on a soft focus filter onto your skin. It is incredible. Just one of the best products. This is something, if it wasn't so pricey, I would use this on an everyday basis because of how pretty it makes your skin look. It really does perfect the look of your skin without requiring a lot of coverage because it filters your skin. It's basically just blurring the imperfections, blurring the texture. So because it blurs the texture, it makes your skin look more perfected, even though it's not a high coverage foundation. This is definitely, I think you could get sheer buildable to just a light medium coverage. You could definitely not build it to full coverage, but medium coverage I say you could build it to. It is extremely skin-like on the skin. It melts on contact. It does not look like makeup on your skin. So if I want a very skin-like look and I want my skin to just look like skin, like my skin but better, my skin but enhanced, this is the product I will reach for. I think Cle De Peau does a beautiful job of creating those makeup products that really enhance your complexion. They make your skin look more beautiful. They're the type of products that you'll use where people will compliment your skin versus complimenting your makeup. And that is what I want. I want people to compliment my skin and say my skin looks really good versus makeup. This is just one of my favorite products. I have actually gone through a full one of these and have purchased myself a backup because that's how much I love it. If you haven't tried this out, really recommend it. I do feel like this foundation, because it's quite that thicker texture, and again, because it's a thicker texture, it smooths over your skin, so it does really blur. If you had wrinkles, I think it would really blur over that area. I feel like a brush works best for application for this product. A sponge might absorb a little bit too much product, but this foundation is so beautiful. I can't say anything negative about it, except that they need more shades, and I wish it wasn't so pricey, but I love this. So next we have the Cle De Peau Radiant Fluid Foundation Natural, and I wear the shade 030 Medium Ochre. This is a lightweight foundation infused with ultra hydrating skincare ingredients for a luminous bare skin-like finish and light to medium buildable coverage. It's enriched with moisturizing ingredients including hyaluronic acid for 12-hour hydration and exceptional all-day wear to visibly enhance your skin's natural beauty for a radiant finish. Diminishes dullness and roughness after 2 weeks while providing comfortable 24-hour wear that resists creasing and cakiness. So I really love this foundation because it's quite a thin texture. So that Cle De Peau, the foundation, had a bit of a thicker, creamier consistency. This one has a very nice thin texture to it. It's almost like a serum. And again, Cle De Peau, this is that makeup skincare hybrid where two become one, and it basically just makes it look like your skin is naturally enhanced. Very perfected in a natural way. So it's not perfecting with a ton of coverage, it's perfecting in the way that it's blurring your skin and it's refining the look of texture. It's so pretty. This one I would say is a light buildable to medium coverage, and it looks so pretty on the skin. It is a very skin-like foundation again. It really melts on contact. And this is the type of foundation I can wear all day long as well, and it doesn't break up, it doesn't crease, it doesn't fade away. This is so pretty. It is such a softening foundation. So if you like that soft focus effect, like I'm always talking about, I feel like Cle De Peau's foundations just do that in general, but this is a fantastic one. And it's a great foundation if you're someone that likes maybe a little bit more coverage on an everyday basis. So you want just a little bit more coverage than that sheer light coverage. This definitely can get you that medium coverage, but even when you build it up, it still looks really skin-like. It doesn't look like heavy makeup. It just glides over the skin beautifully. The texture of this is one of the best foundations I have tried. It has been out of stock in my shade for so long. I've actually gone through this bottle. So I really hope they come back into stock with it soon because, at least in Canada, it's out of stock. But it's such a beautiful, just gorgeous foundation. This is a foundation I would love to use on an everyday basis because, again, it's not too perfecting where it looks like heavy makeup, but it's not too sheer coverage where it just looks undetectable. It's that perfect middleman. This is a foundation I would use for special occasions and every day. It's just that perfect all occasion foundation. And I feel like this would be very suitable to dry combo skin. And I think if you have oily skin, you actually could use it. It's not as hydrating as the foundation. This is definitely more of a satin finish with a little bit of a glow, but it's not obnoxious. It's not too crazy or anything like that. It has a really nice dry down to it, I find. Because this has such a beautiful satin finish, I feel like it will be suitable for so many different skin types because if you have oilier skin, you can just use a more mattifying primer, where this one might be a little more challenging for extremely oily skin types. The foundation, that seems so odd when you say it. This one I do feel like you could manipulate to get it to work for oily skin types because the finish is definitely not glowy. It is that natural finish, like it's called the Radiant Fluid Foundation Natural, and it is that natural finish. It doesn't lean too matte, but it doesn't lean too dewy. It's that beautiful satin, has great longevity for me. I can wear it all throughout the year, so it's a foundation that works great for me in the springtime as well as it does in the summer or fall and winter. It works all throughout the year. Again, and you can just manipulate it throughout the year by using more powder, using a mattifying primer, using a glowy primer, and you can really utilize this foundation in different ways because you can manipulate it and it does work really well with any sort of product you use. So I haven't found this like a finicky product. Some products you'll use and you can only use them with certain primers or certain powders, but this one works well with everything, and I feel like it's because it's so skin-like on the skin. It is beautiful. It melts on contact. It has great longevity. There's just nothing bad to say about this foundation, so I absolutely adore this one. It's definitely a favorite from Cle De Peau. So next on the list we have the Cle De Peau Radiant Fluid Foundation Matte SPF 20. So this one is a soft matte liquid foundation that combines a radiant finish with long-term skincare benefits to smooth and refine skin while minimizing the appearance of visible pores. It achieves soft focused skin in an instant, no filter needed. Harnesses the power of light to create the visible radiance of the skin surface while refining pores and smoothing imperfections. Nourishes complexion with skincare-inspired formula and an 8-hour hydration boost. Diminishes the visibility of pores and roughness after 2 weeks. Provides comfortable 24-hour wear that resists creasing and dullness. So this foundation, I actually have completely gone through this foundation. I don't have the bottle, but I do have a sample so that I can try on so you can see it on the skin. This foundation is a foundation that is really pretty for a mattifying foundation. It's not a typical matte formulation where you'd associate it with really dry, heavy foundation. I feel like a few years back, maybe 10, 20 years ago, when you talked about a matte foundation, it was just drying and made you look older. It emphasized all the texture on your skin. But this is a really pretty new day matte foundation. So it's a really modern matte foundation and it has a really good coverage. I would say this is a medium coverage, buildable to a fuller coverage for sure. You only require such a small amount of product. The texture is very similar to the Radiant Fluid Foundation Natural. It's that very thin texture. And it just lays on the skin, and it's so high pigment for that foundation that you don't require a lot of product. You can also really thin out that product though, and you can mix in a moisturizer if you want a lighter coverage. So I do like that about it. I will say this is not my favorite foundation because it still, even though it's a modern matte foundation, it is still too mattifying on my skin personally, just because I have such dry skin. It's a little too high coverage for what I prefer as well. But I think a lot of people would like this, especially if you have oily skin and if you're someone with large pores. It does a great job of blurring the skin, and that was probably my favorite thing about this foundation is how well it performed on skin texture. So if you're someone that has a lot of discoloration, if you have acne, if you are someone with larger pores, I feel like you'd really love this foundation because it really does refine the look of your skin, but it was just a little bit too drying on me. So unfortunately, it does not come in my top 10 foundations even, just because it's a little bit too dry. But I did use this up because I liked to actually mix it with different foundations. So a lot of the times, if a matte foundation is just a little bit too matte for me, I really like to mix in my favorite dewy foundation. So I'll mix in a little bit of the Cle De Peau, the foundation, and that way the coverage won't be as high and I'll get a little bit more of that satin finish versus just that matte finish. So again, you can kind of manipulate foundations. You can always mix them in with different foundations. But I would say if you're someone with oily skin, if you have acne, if you have discoloration, if you have large pores, this foundation would be amazing for you because you require such a little amount of pigment to get that fuller coverage effect. And it's also blurring and mattifying. It's also blurring and soft focus effect on the skin, which is a great quality and what I really look for in foundations. But if you're someone that really likes natural, more glowy satin finishes, then this is probably not the foundation I would recommend for you because it's going to be a little bit too mattifying, maybe a little bit too drying. But I do like that Cle De Peau has this option for a fuller coverage foundation because a lot of the times I feel like when we are talking about luxury complexion products, a lot of them are quite low pigment and a lot of them are more on the glowy side. That just seems to happen with luxury brands. So I do like that they have this matte foundation. And it has an SPF. So this is definitely probably my least favorite Cle De Peau foundation, but that is also because I have dry skin. So, but if you're someone that has oily skin, I would recommend trying it out because, so even though this is my favorite, it's still something I would recommend for oilier skin types. Like if I'm comparing it to the Chanel, what is it called? The Flawless Finish Foundation. Is it called the Ultra Latant Foundation? This Cle De Peau matte foundation is, I feel like, just so many notches above that Chanel one. That Chanel one is even more drying and matte and like too cakey on my skin. Where the Cle De Peau foundation, it's not cakey at all on the skin. It's just a little bit too drying on my skin. So obviously it's just going to depend on your skin needs and your skin type. But I can still get the Cle De Peau foundation to work. It's just not my number one. So next we have the Radiant Cream Foundation. This has an SPF 25 and I wear the shade 030 Medium Ochre. I'm typically in between 030 and 040 in Cle De Peau foundations. I quickly want to note that the foundation, it does run light, probably because it has some skincare benefits in it maybe. Well, I guess they all do, but for some reason this runs a little light, so I got the shade 040 in this one. but everything else I'm normally an 030. So the Radiant Cream Foundation is a skincare-based cream foundation with moisturizing medium to full coverage that visibly perfects with a naturally dewy, lustrous finish. It provides exceptional all-day wear that resists creasing and caking, proven flawless for 24 hours. Formulated with deeply hydrating ingredients, comforts skin while minimizing the look of signs of aging and imperfections. Skin feels smooth and moisturized even after makeup is removed. This is a foundation I really want my mom to try out, and you know what? I'm going to get her to try it and update you guys because I feel like this would be amazing for mature skin because it's, again, that thicker texture similar to the Cle De Peau foundation. So what it does is because it's that thicker texture, it honestly just smooths over your skin and it smooths over any lines or any wrinkles or any pores. And it just makes your skin look so youthful and so creamy and so plump. And this sort of product, even though it's that thicker texture, it really melts into your skin and just looks skin-like. What I really love about this foundation is that I feel like if I were to recommend any foundation, it would be something like this because this has a medium buildable to a fuller coverage foundation. And because of that, you can really manipulate this sort of product. So you can mix it in with a moisturizer if you want a lighter coverage. You can use literally just a tiny, tiny dot and really work it into the skin so you can get that sheer coverage. You can mix it in with a glowy primer. You can mix it in with a mattifying primer to make it more matte. So you really can get a lot of use with fuller coverage foundations than you can with those lighter coverage foundations because you're only stuck using these as light coverage foundations. With these medium to fuller coverages, you can really, really manipulate them. I also like to use them with a bronzing skin tint like the Chantecaille Anti-Aging Face Tint so that you can get a bit more of that bronzed look. That's probably my favorite combination is these two together. It's really pretty, but this is definitely more on the moisturizing side. So I would say it is definitely more of a satin glowy finish, and this does definitely get glowier with wear. So if you have really oily skin, you would need a mattifying primer and you definitely need to powder this down. But even though it gets glowier throughout the day, it doesn't separate, it doesn't crease, it doesn't fade away. It actually gets better with wear. It looks really pretty on the skin. And even though it gets a little bit more glowy throughout the day, I don't find that it picks up on texture. It doesn't emphasize texture. Your skin still looks really soft and creamy with this foundation on. I feel like your skin looking creamy is the best description. Your skin just looks so good and it still gives you that soft focus blur, but it's just a bit more of a hydrating foundation. So this is just one of the prettiest on the skin, especially because you only need a tiny amount of product and you can really work it into the skin and you can make it look more skin-like. But this does have more coverage, so you can also get that really pretty perfected look. So this is a foundation I like to reach for on special occasions when I want my skin to look a little bit more perfected. It's not going to look like no makeup. It's definitely not one of those undetectable, barely there foundations because it has that coverage level to it. But even though it has coverage, it's not going to look makeup-y or cakey in any way. It really does meld into the skin and just smooths out the skin in such a pretty way. So if you're looking for something with a little bit more coverage, you have maybe normal, combo, leaning dry skin, and you really like a foundation that you can use for any occasion. So you can wear it for every day, but you can wear it for special occasions. I would recommend this one because you can really get a lot of use out of a foundation like this. You can just wear it in so many different ways. I love this foundation. It's so pretty. And then finally, we have the Radiant Cushion Foundation Dewy. So this is their newest foundation that they came out with. This is a perfectly portable, deeply hydrating foundation. It is a refillable cushion foundation imbued with 24-hour moisture and buildable coverage. Creates a flawless finish reminiscent of a fresh morning dew lasting for 16 hours. It instantly creates a luminous and dewy look while minimizing every imperfection. The cushion foundation glides on with a fresh, hydrating essence-like texture that restores moisture with every touch-up and improves skin radiance over time. Build your layers of luster for a personalized level of glow and coverage. This is one of my favorites from Cle De Peau. I feel like I said that about everything because they just do complexion products so well. But I would say the coverage level is very, very similar to the Radiant Cream Foundation. You can definitely get that medium buildable to fuller coverage. And I really like that as well because this foundation is so customizable. You can really use it in so many different ways. You can apply just a tiny, tiny bit of product and really shear it over the skin to get that light coverage, but you can build it up. And this is a buildable foundation where it never looks heavy, it never looks cakey. It really does reduce the appearance of texture on the skin. It is pore minimizing. Again, I feel like these are very similar in that soft focus effect that they have on the skin. However, this foundation is a little bit more liquidy in texture. So it's almost like that serum-like texture. It is a bit more of a thin consistency. It's not that thicker consistency. And did I say I wear this in the shade 030 Medium Ochre? This runs a little bit deeper than the other foundations, I just want to mention as well. So it's a little bit darker than the other 030s that I've mentioned. But this is so pretty. If you want that glowy look, I would say it has a little bit more of a glow than the Radiant Cream Foundation. But even though it has a bit more of a glow, I still feel like if you have oily or combo skin, you could get this to work. You could use a mattifying primer. You could powder the skin as well because it's not overly glowy and it doesn't get so oily or glowy throughout the day. But it does get a little bit dewier throughout the day. It's just not obnoxious. You're not going to look like an oil slick or anything. I think it wears beautifully. This has such a great longevity to it for being a more hydrating foundation. And my skin just always feels so good when I wear this foundation. Like my skin just feels better once I've removed it. And I feel like I know I will always have a good skin day. So if I'm maybe having, I don't know, if I'm having a few more breakouts than usual, I love to reach for this foundation because it makes me feel confident in my skin. And it makes my skin look so good without it being a makeup-y look. So it still gives me that coverage without it looking heavy, without it looking cakey on the skin. It just is so, so pretty. Love the longevity, like I said. I have no problems with wear time with this. And I do think the compact is really nice for traveling if you're someone that likes to do that. And I think it's just such an overall pretty glowy foundation. And this is something I actually got my mom to pick up, and this is my mom's favorite foundation as well. It looks so good on her mature skin. Again, my mom is 65 and it just smooths over her skin. Like whenever she wears this, her skin looks so beautiful and it doesn't look heavy. It doesn't look makeup-y. Whenever I see her, I think her skin just looks beautiful versus it being like, oh, your makeup looks good today. I always feel like, wow, her skin looks so pretty and just, it doesn't look, like I said, too heavy. It doesn't look makeup-y. It doesn't sit in any lines. It just makes her skin look really smooth and beautiful in person. And I love that because when I'm next to her, I can see that her skin looks beautiful in person instead of, again, it looking like you're wearing this heavy foundation and it masking your face. These foundations never mask your face. They just enhance your complexion and make your skin look even more beautiful. So this is something, again, that I would recommend for any skin type, more if you're normal, combo, dry for sure. If you have more mature skin, this would be excellent for you as well. And you can just powder the skin if you're someone that gets a little bit oilier. And I would recommend it if you're someone that likes any level of coverage. So you can definitely sheer this out, but you can also build it up for that more special occasion look. So if you just want one foundation to go for, this is the type of product I'd recommend. So if I'm ranking my favorite Cle De Peau foundations, let's see. So in number 5 would be the Radiant Matte Foundation, just because I don't love that one. It just doesn't look the best on my skin. In number 4, I would rank the Radiant Cream Foundation. I absolutely love this foundation. And like I said, these are all in my top 10 favorite foundations of all time. But I just feel like I don't use this one as often. The color is a little bit too light for me, so I always have to mix it with the Chantecaille Anti-Aging Face Tint to get that perfect color match. But every time I do use this product, I'm always impressed by it. It looks so beautiful on the skin. It's just not something I reach for all the time, but it is something I like to use when I want my skin to look special. And then next on my list, I would recommend the Radiant Fluid Foundation Natural. I think this is so pretty on the skin. It's the perfect everyday makeup wear. Like you could use it for an everyday basis. You can also use it for special occasions, but it's just not going to ever build past a medium coverage. So that's why it doesn't rank as the highest, I guess, is because you can really only get one level of coverage with this, but I love how it blurs the skin. It really does give that soft focus, beautiful effect, and it's that perfect satin finish. Number 2 would be the Radiant Cushion Foundation Dewy, just because I love how this looks on my skin. I have dry skin, so this always looks flattering. I love that I can sheer this out and get that lighter coverage. I love that I can build it up for a more special occasion. I love that when I'm having an insecure skin day, my skin just looks beautiful without my makeup looking heavy at all. It still looks very skin-like. And then number 1 would be the Cle De Peau Foundation. Even though this one isn't as customizable because you can't build it past a medium coverage, I'm just someone that likes a lighter coverage on an everyday basis. And because of how special this looks on your skin, I feel like you don't even require the coverage because it makes you just look so blurred and so perfected and so youthful, and your skin looks so creamy and just juicy and lovely. So this is just my all-time favorite Cle De Peau foundation. But honestly, you can't go wrong with any of these recommendations. You can't go wrong with any of these foundations because Cle De Peau just does their products beautifully. I also wanted to rank these from the dewiest finish to the matte finish because I feel like that would be helpful if you are someone that maybe has an oilier skin type. So the dewiest foundation, I would say, is definitely the Cle De Peau Radiant Cushion Foundation Dewy. I think this leans the most dewy on the skin. It's not extremely dewy. I feel like dewy is kind of a deceiving word because you would be scared of it if you have oily skin, but I feel like you could still get this to work for oilier skin types. Next on my list, I do think the Cle De Peau The Foundation. These are so similar in how dewy they are on the skin, but I feel like I just get a less glowy look when I powder the skin. I don't know, maybe that's just me, but I do feel like this is just slightly less dewy. And then I would go with the Radiant Cream Foundation. This one is definitely a satin leaning to a dewier finish, but I wouldn't say it's dewy by any means. It just gives you a nice, beautiful glow, kind of like that candlelight glow that I really love. And then we have the Radiant Fluid Foundation Natural. This has a very beautiful natural finish, like it says. It is that perfect skin-like finish. And then, of course, on the matte side would be the Radiant Foundation Matte. That one is definitely the most matte of the bunch. It is like a straight up matte foundation, but it is a modern matte. It's not a drying matte. So I hope you guys enjoyed this roundup of Cle De Peau foundations, and hopefully this helped a little bit. I would love to hear from you. What are your favorite foundations from Cle De Peau? Have you tried all these out? Let me know your thoughts. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Like this video if you like it, and I'll see you in my next video.